Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Myung-Jin and San.
Here I come to save the day.
That was Andy Kaufman, who was a comedian in the sometime at the tail end of the last millennium. I forget whether he was 70s, 80s, 90s, or some portion thereof. But that particular bit, which might have been how he introduced himself to the viewing public in general, was he would come out and he would have a record player and he would walk over and he would put the arm on the record and he would stand there and he'd be playing the Mighty Mouse theme song. And when it came to the point where Mighty Mouse came in to sing, he would sing, "Here I come to save the day." And then he would just stand there and wait for the next time it came around, and he would sing it again. And so, yeah, that reminds me a lot of how we think of ourselves when we're attempting to do bodhisattva things, or what we would like everyone to think about us while we were doing these bodhisattva things. We'll get into what a bodhisattva is and what isn't, what he does and what he doesn't do in a sec, but I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. Some of them are from the Diamond Sutra, and one of them is not. So this is Diamond Sutra, chapter 8. Then the Lord asked, "If anyone fills 3,000 galaxies with the 7 treasures, gold, silver, lapis lazuli, crystal, agate, red pearls, and cornelian, and gave away all that he had in gifts of alms, would he gain great merit?" Subhūti answered, "Lord, great merit indeed would accrue to him, even though in truth he does not have a separate existence to which the merit would accrue." Chapter 28. Subhūti said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, how is it that the Bodhisattva does not experience merit?" Subhūti, the merit generated by the Bodhisattvas is not to be appropriated by them. Therefore, I say they do not experience merit. Chapter 19. No merit is great merit, it's called. Subhūti, what do you think? If there were a person who was able to take enough of the 7 jewels to fill all the worlds of the 3 galaxies and gave them away for charity, would not, based on these causes and conditions, this person's merit be great? Yes, world-honored one, based on these causes and conditions, this person's merit would be extremely great. Subhūti, if merit were real, the Tathagata would not say that there was attainment of great merit. It is because this merit is non-existent that the Tathagata says that the merit is great. And skipping backwards to chapter 3, the Buddha said to Subhūti, "The Bodhisattvas and mahāsattvas should subdue their thoughts like this. All the different types of sentient beings, whether they're born from eggs, born from a womb, born from moisture, or born spontaneously, whether they have form or not form, whether they abide in perceptions or no perceptions, or without perceptions or non-perceptions, I save them by causing them to enter nirvana without remainder. And when these immeasurable, countless, infinite number of sentient beings have been liberated, in actuality, no sentient being has attained liberation. Why is this so? Subhūti, if a bodhisattva abides in the signs of self, person, sentient being, or lifespan, she or he is not a bodhisattva. And finally, from the Diamond Sutra, Subhūti is the same with a bodhisattva. If he says, I will save numberless sentient beings, then he is not a bodhisattva. Why? Subhūti, there is actually no such state called bodhisattvahood. Therefore, I say that all phenomena have no self, no personality, no sentient beingness, and no lifespan. Subhūti, if a bodhisattva realizes the selflessness of phenomena, the Tathagata calls this person a real bodhisattva. And if those weren't enough Zen paradoxes for you, I've got another one coming up a little bit. So we take the Bodhisattva vows every week, right? Sentient beings are numberless, we vow to help them all. Delusions are countless, we vow to cut through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite, we vow to embrace them all. And the Buddha way is endless, we vow to follow it. Okay, it's the first one. Like most things, most people don't really get past that first one. You know, you don't hear people talking about, oh, I'm going to go cut through some delusions today. They're endless, you know, but I'm going to cut through them. Now, we tend to get hung up on the sentient beings are numberless bit, which is like incomprehensible. Not that it's supposed to be comprehensible. And saving them all sounds impossible, and it's a silly vow, and I'll just say it, and it is what it is. And yet every week we say we're going to do this, sometimes more than once a week, depending on how many services you attend. So, given that there's an infinite number of sentient beings, one thing that we can do is consider what's common amongst all of them. I mean, you have sentient beings of all races, all makes, all models, all ethnicities, all nationalities, everything, right? But what do they all have in common? They all need air. They all need water. They need some sort of sustenance. They need shelter and clothing, no doubt. Maybe not everywhere. But there are common things that everybody needs. If they're a sentient being, that's their baseline. So given that, maybe the first way that we can make an attempt at helping all these numberless beings is by seeing that at least basic needs are met, or at least not being ripped away from them. Sometimes doing no harm is the best we can do, right? But if we can see that people have air and water and shelter and medicine and food and some sort of thing to wrap themselves in, that's sort of a good way to actually act the Bodhisattva vow rather than just say the Bodhisattva vow. What are some elements that bodhisattvas have and do, and what is it they don't do? Remember a few weeks ago I was talking about how if you can't wrap your head around mudita, sympathetic joy, you can always think of schadenfreude, and it's like, oh yeah, taking glee in the misfortune of others, yeah, it's 180 degrees away from that. So you're taking pleasure in the success of others. So that being the case, so that ability to experience mudita would be something that a bodhisattva would have in their job description, right? Humility would go hand in hand with that, because the idea behind sympathetic joy is that the person who's experiencing the good stuff doesn't even know that you're happy about it for them. They don't have to. The bodhisattva would be generous, even if that generosity is just ensuring that somebody has air and water and a house and so on and so forth. They're compassionate. They see someone who is in need, in discomfort. The bodhisattva will do what they can to enable them to feel more satisfied, comfortable. There's a few things that you could say bodhisattva wouldn't have in their arsenal, like seeking praise, seeking fame, seeking fortune, seeking rewards. The great payoff for being a bodhisattva would be anything from Attaboy to, accruing merit. So let's go on to that last bit that I want to read you. When Bodhidharma stood before Emperor Wu, a long catalogue was read out detailing the money the emperor had given to pay for copying and translating Buddhist scriptures and texts, opening of monasteries, and the permission that he had granted his subjects to ordain as monks and nuns. At the end of this litany, the emperor asked Bodhidharma, "What merit have I accrued by all this wholesome action?" To the emperor's consternation, Bodhidharma replied, "None whatsoever." Now, we've heard that interchange, and we've heard all these things from the Diamond Sutra, and you could say to yourself, okay, there is no merit. I mean, merit as a thing doesn't exist. So why bother? The problem that the emperor had was that I accumulated the merit. Karma generated by all that positive stuff he did would be great. His intention was to do good, we presume. However, if he was doing it just with the intention of gaining personal merit, like if he figured that was going to be the big payoff for being a nice guy, hey, I'm going to get some merit out of this deal, I'm going to do it. If he's doing these things for I, me, my, then no merit. Not even reasonably good karma, because intentionality matters with karma, right? So what do? We dedicate merit here every week. At Bayou Zen, we dedicate merit every week. And we've talked about it before. And it's not so much that individually we're dedicating merit. It's just that there are those whom we know, some of whom we don't know, but they are in that state of dissatisfaction, unpleasantness, all those things that we can actually do something about if it's only that we wish them better. Every week we're doing the Venerable Wanji's loving kindness chant. May I be well and happy, and so on. May my parents be well and happy, and so on. May friends, enemies, animals, everything, may they all be happy and free from suffering. That's who we're dedicating merit to. And we're doing it collectively. We're not doing it as individuals. I may happen to know somebody who had a heart attack, so I'll bring them to the attention of the rest of the Sangha so that we all may wish them well, happy, and so on. I'd like to say there's no I in Bodhisattva, but that would be incorrect, at least from a literal sense. But there is no I in Bodhisattva. We don't do things as individuals. We don't accrue merit as individuals. We don't get praise as individuals, or at least we don't look for getting praise as individuals. None of these things are done alone. As the Buddha said in the Diamond Sutra, thinking of yourself as having a personhood, lifespan, any sort of limitation on yourself, like this is me and that's not, is incorrect. We generate merit. Merit is the thing, even though it's an empty thing like everything else. But we do what we can to make the lives of those around us a little better than, how they started, at least. So if it were here we come to save the day, it might have worked better. But we're not Mighty Mouse. We don't have to be Mighty Mouse. As Chilman talked about last week with the hummingbird, sometimes all we have to do is bring our little beakfuls of water to the fire. If that's all we can do, that's what we do. So, as has been said, try for 10,000 years, become enlightened, and save all sentient beings.